up, guys? I'm Chase Fisher. I'm the CEO of Blendz Eyewear.
What's up, guys? I am Gareth Emery. I'm just Gareth Emery.
First favorite DJ of all time is this dude right here. 9 years ago, I started a business on the dance floor of a nightclub that he played. And 9 years later today, we are in the Salt Flats in Nevada, gonna put on an amazing show to celebrate a journey that me and him have kind of shared throughout the years. And it's called Full Circle. We're gonna light this place up. 2-hour set by the man himself, Gareth Emery. We're gonna crush this. Stay tuned.
Let's do this.
In 2011, I went to see my favorite DJ, Gareth Emery, play at a nightclub in San Diego. I wore $5 beater shades to the show that received tons of attention. On the dance floor that night, Blendz was born.
And it feels like me on a good day.
I'm actually here with my all-time favorite DJ. I've been a long-time fan ever since I could remember. He's always been my favorite DJ. I went to every single show, literally the first guy in line, danced to every single song, sang every song, and I was the last guy leaving, and just super, super, super excited to be here.
Amazing, mate. It's funny. I knew pretty early you were setting up a sunglasses company. Like, it was like, what, the first year or so when you sent me an email telling me what you were planning?
Yeah, so let me just preface this by saying, once again, I'm one of Gareth's biggest fans. And when he played in San Diego in 2011 for your Northern Lights tour, I wore some neon green sunglasses to the club that I bought from Target. And I don't know why I wore those sunglasses, but I just did. I wore them out to the club. Everyone in the club was coming up to me asking about my shades. Where'd you get those? Let me try them on. And it was crazy. Like, I vividly remember you dropping on A Good Day, the Metropolis remix. Shades on, in the middle of the dance floor, looking up to the ceiling, just like absorbing that moment. And from that point forward, like, I became obsessed with sunglasses.
Dude, I wish I'd had neon green shades that night, because I got no action. Like, it was all about you, because you had the fucking neon green Target shades.
Dude, and I can honestly say, I don't know if me going to that show, I would have started Blendz. You know what I mean? Like,
you really think
that's what's crazy. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe I would have done something different in life, but I don't know if it would have been sunglasses.
Wow, that is nuts.
This guy's music's always inspired me. It's always touched me in so many ways. So, that was just incredible. And so from that point forward, I just was like obsessed with sunglasses, and I was like, I'm gonna start a sunglass company. And so 2 years after that show actually is when we went to go visit our manufacturer in Taiwan.
Yeah.
And we had a night layover in Taipei. It was our last night. And me and my business partner were walking down the street looking for a place to eat. And we stumbled across a billboard that said, Gareth Emery, Luxy Nightclub, April 19th, 2013. Like, I remember that day. And I look at Blake and I'm like, holy shit, we're going to this. And he's like, yeah, dude, like, of course. So we go buy tickets, we stay up all night, slam a 6-pack in 7-Eleven, get on our flight home to LA, and I literally was like, I'm emailing Gareth when I get back, I gotta tell him the story. Like, something's in the air, I don't know what's in the air, but something is in the air, you know?
Man.
So where were you at that, like, in your career, like, music-wise, like, what did that all look like for you?
Those were kind of the EDM boom years, right? Because I'd been coming to play in North America since 2005, but gigs in the US, like, how do I say this nicely? Like, they used to suck. Like, I loved coming to America. That's why I used to come. But like, my first gigs in the States, I'd be playing to like 20 people, just because the scene was like far smaller. So people would say to me, like, why do you want to go to the US? Like, the best gigs are in like Holland and Germany. And I was like, I just love LA, particularly Southern California. Like, I just had a love affair with the place. And then around 2008, 2009, things just went crazy. And all of a sudden, like, America got electronic music. And so I released Northern Lights, my first artist album, in 2010. So the years that followed that, like 2010, 11, 12, 13, were just these crazy years where things just got bigger and bigger each year. The festivals got bigger, the shows got bigger. Every time you went back to a city, there'd be twice as many people that were there before. And you don't realise until after the fact when you're in one of these moments. Right, one of those times in history. And now we all look back and go, wow, those years were just the most insane years for electronic music in the United States. But at the time, it was just like as many gigs as possible, like trying to make as many good records as possible. But those are crazy years, man. And I love the fact that Blendz started out at a Gareth Emery show, especially because like you've talk me up, and I really appreciate that. But I've become an equally big fan of your brand and what you do.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Over the years, and even when you first emailed, I was like, oh yeah, man, there's like some pretty cool shit.
I know. I mean, dude, probably like you were probably getting like 100, 150 emails a day, probably from anyone. This was when you were doing the Gareth Emery
We
podcast.
got so many on the podcast.
Probably
for, like, shout-outs,
so many
yeah.
just kids want to get shouted out. Like I was one of those kids, probably emailed 20 times, and it was just like he had to hear it. I had to get connected somehow, some way, you know. But yeah, and then that was our first real big push into music. Like you were kind of that first inspiration for me that really. I don't know, I've connected to a lot of music over the years, but that music really brought me into a different stage in my life, and I really used it in so many ways to break into the music scene.
Yeah.
And, you know, from that point forward, like 2 years after that, actually, we sponsored Groove Cruise in
Right,
Miami.
yeah.
And you played Groove Cruise.
Yes.
And I knew the lead photographer on that ship, and I go, you got one job, dude. Your only job is to get shades on Gareth and get a photo of Gareth.
Oh, that was the first time I
That
played
was
it.
the first time you
I
played
remember
it.
that.
And we got the photo of you in the leather jacket. Rocking
Was
the
that the
shades.
first time I was rocking Blendz?
That was the first time, dude. That was, and then
I had no idea that was the first time.
And then I did a post on that, and I wrote out the story, and I think I like tagged everyone that knew you, like you, Rox, Kat, like Christina Novelli, all the people that were affiliated closest to you. I was like, I'm just gonna tag them all, and then you liked the photo, and then I was like, okay. So that's, I think, when like the relationship was really
I
starting.
remember that guy getting shades on me and going, you've got to wear these sunglasses for the photo. And I remember I was like drunk, as I was in most of those years. So I was like, yeah, man, give me the shades, give me the shades. But that's a good strategy.
Dude, it worked, man. Yeah, and so I think there's just so many different instances along the way that we've had interesting kind of like things happen. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. I do feel though, even though that was the first time I was like pictured wearing them, I'm pretty sure you were on my radar before that. Because like I will always have like quite a number of people who've emailed me or whatever, and I'll just be keeping an eye on what they're doing.
Right.
Because so many people reach out saying like we're starting something,
For sure.
whether it's like a brand or they're an artist or whatever, and you see potential in hundreds of people. You just never know who it is actually going to work out for.
Right.
So. And I've got people like that now who are like in the early days of something, and I always just try and keep an eye on what people are doing. You know, some artists that turned out to be like really big artists began as like kids, like sending me demos and stuff.
Yeah.
And even at the time the demos sucked, I'll just be like, keep an eye, keep them on my radar, and kind of see what happens.
Yeah, no, that's so cool, man. I think just your journey, your path, like blazing your own path, doing it your own way, like that was super big for me. You know what I mean? And just being like an entrepreneur too, like. You don't follow the conventional path, you know, you kind of like build your own rules and you kind of build your own way to do it, and you just grind through it, you know?
Well, I remember still vividly being that kid when I was like 21, 22 years old, sending out hundreds of emails to like trance record labels, like none of which would get back to me.
Right.
And then like going down to the post office with like, you know, 100 CDs to like mail out, again, like none of which would come back. So like I remember, even though it was like, man, like 18, 19 years ago, I remember that time really, really well. So I still have like a lot of empathy and love for anybody that's hustling like that these days.
I love that, dude. I love that. I know, man. And then, God, what else happened? Your sister Roxanne sent me a Facebook message. So after we kind of like had that little thing on social, she goes, Chase, like Gareth wants to do a collab with you. I remember jumping out of bed. I go, holy shit. I storm into the office that day. I tell everyone in the office, like, I don't care what you're working on. Put it aside. This is your only focus.
Yeah.
And we're gonna knock this out of the park. And so that was like my first like, oh, here we go. You know what I mean? Like it was just like so cool and so memorable for me. And I think from that point forward, it was just like we did so many more collaborations throughout our time with Blenders and continue to build a brand that way.
Yeah, and the interesting thing for me was like actually, I remember when you first made me some, and in fact you saw me wearing like not sunglasses, regular eyeglasses of like a different brand. And this is the time we like knew each other and we'd message and stuff. And you sent me a text message and you were like, bro, he's like, I can't bear to see you in like this brand. He goes, I've got to get you some like prescription blenders. And I was like, cool, man, like here's my prescription. And like honestly, since I've been wearing them, because I wear them every day all around the world, and normally I'm wearing eyeglasses in the day, right? So many people all over the world, especially like airports and stuff, are going, oh, what brand are those glasses? Crazy amount of attention.
So sick, man. I love that. I know. No, it's crazy, man. I mean, just from like being that kind of kid at all your shows, dancing and just like being that guy, like literally that guy, to like now friends and like, you know, mentors and, you know, through business and music and all these connections is really fucking cool.
Well, it's fucking amazing seeing the journey you've been on from my perspective, and I like, for me, like, the coolest thing about Blendz has just been how you embody like the lifestyle that you're selling. And I just think that level of like authenticity is like, it's kind of, you just don't see it that much, and when you see it, you kind of know.
For sure.
And that's always been amazing to me. Like, you know, the fact that like it's a Southern California brand,
right,
with like roots in like surf and shit, and you still fucking surf and stuff these days.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know, man. Like, I think you embody the brand amazingly, and that's been a large part of why, you know, people can relate to it so well.
Totally. No, I love that. And like, I think, you know, like growing up as a surfer and like an action sports guy, snowboarder, things like that, like around the beach, and you know, my whole life being like a athlete and whatnot, like bringing dance music, your music, into that has been kind of like what I've been trying to do as well, and kind of integrate it into that scene, which hasn't seen a lot, you know, there just hasn't been that much presence in that space. That's kind of the focus, you know, is really bridging that gap.
Well, yeah, well, I think like the other cool thing for me is like, and this took a while to happen, but when I started seeing Blendz on just like regular people all over the place, because, you know, when you first started out, that wasn't happening.
Yeah,
like,
no,
and I don't know, like, I feel like a few years in, I already knew you guys, we were chatting, and I'll just be like, I don't know, in fucking a restaurant or something in LA, and the guy on the next table would have like Blendz, and I'll be like, oh yeah, fucking cool, man. And then it just happened so much that it was like no longer an event because you guys got so big. But like, fuck, man, that was so cool, and seeing them on like fans and stuff as well, because I don't know, like, I think one thing about those like dance music boom years was that like a lot of the shit the DJs were wearing was just completely inaccessible to the people that were listening to their music. Yeah. And I even remember, like, I don't know, like, say like Swedish House Mafia, who were kind of like fashion leaders at that point, would literally always be in like fucking $300 pair of like designer sunglasses. And even me, like, being in the industry, I was like, fucking hell, like, if I want to emulate these guys, I've got to spend some serious money.
Totally.
And I don't know, and I think it was fine at that point, but like, then you're just completely unapproachable and out of reach to like to like your regular fans.
Totally, yeah. No, I think like it's peanut butter meets jelly, you know, the product for the demo and things like that. So, but it's also risky. Like, you don't want to building a brand in dance music is kind of hard, because you don't want it to be too ravey or too like party-ish, to like where it comes off like kind of, it doesn't come off cool, you know. So it's a fine balance.
Well, I think you've kind of, at least from where I'm standing, the way you seem to have done it is you've obviously had like loads of sort of entry points in dance music, but that's never been like the focus of the brand.
Right.
Like, it's never been like, this is it's if anything, it's like surf has been more of and kind of extreme sports has been more of a sort of you know, cornerstone of the band than like electronic music.
Yeah.
But you've done a lot of stuff in terms of, I guess, like influencer marketing and
For
stuff
sure.
like in the electronic music world.
Yeah, definitely, man. I know, it's crazy, from the dance floor flux to where we are right now. You know what I mean?
But that's like, isn't it mad when you look how long it takes to build things? And that's even even like, you know, I think compared to most stuff, you've built the company pretty quickly. Like, going from Flux to here in like 9 years, pretty good going. But it's still 9 years. And I think for people who want to do similar things, they got to realize like that's just how long building something great takes.
I mean, it really does, man. I had no idea. Like, I had no idea how hard it was to build a brand. I mean, you know, you probably had no idea how hard it was to make it in music.
Well, would we have started if we knew?
No, probably not, dude. Probably not, man.
But you know, like, when you look at the timeline, like, you started that brand in like, say, like 2011 at the show in Flux, at a show of mine. How many years did it take just to get a pair of the things on my face?
Oh my, dude,
Like,
I dedicated my whole life to getting those shades on you in 2014. I was like, whatever
like
it takes.
3 years.
Yeah.
3 years.
It was, I know, man. It's surreal though, but I think like music, yours in particular, has such a way to like, there's some energy involved with it that just brings people together. You know? Like, and I think that's what I love about it. There's so much underneath the hood of your songs that I did not know about, that like truly move and truly connect. And so I just, it's guided me through the highs of my life and the lows of my life, you know what I mean? And so
I love that it's been like a soundtrack kind of along the way.
Oh, dude, it's totally been an energy booster.
It's kind of amazing how things like snowball after those first few years. So it's like your first 3 years is like just get a pair on Gaz's face. But then after that, things obviously started happening very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And that was the same for me in music, right? Those first 3 years, I'm like, get a record deal.
Yeah.
Any deal. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, as long as it is like an official record label that will release my music, I'm gonna fucking do it.
I love
and then
that.
once you've done that, like, you know, things can escalate quickly. But like, this is why I guess like people need to know like not to give up in those early stages.
Totally, man. I mean, totally. It's like the best advice I ever got was the only way you're gonna fail is if you stop.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And just keep going. And like for so long, it was just about like trying to be as big as we could, as fast as we could. And it's just like, it doesn't work that way. You got to put in your time. You got to win, win every day, and just focus on being the best you can. Know that's gonna take time.
I think trying to be like the absolute biggest and having this sort of black and white mentality where you think you failed if you're not the absolute biggest is such a shortcut to like misery.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people like that in music and in business whose like only goal is to be the absolute biggest.
Yeah.
And for every day of their life, then even when they're making tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, they're miserable because they're not the absolute biggest.
Yeah.
And then when they become the absolute biggest, if they do, then they're terrified for the day where they're not going to be the absolute biggest. Whereas a much better approach is, I think, just doing the work and being accountable to yourself and going, I kind of left it all on the field and did the best I fucking could. And what happens after that point is kind of up to the universe.
Totally, man. I know. So here we are, 8.5, 9 years later, man. And it's pretty surreal. Like I've always wanted to do something big with you. Like that was my goal. It was like something big. I didn't know what it was gonna look like or when it would happen, but I knew that I wanted to tell the story on a much grandiosity scale, right?
Yeah.
And I think just like what better way to do it than being out here and putting on our own Gareth Emery show,
And 2020 is the year to do it, right? Like when else are we going to be able to take this time and literally come to the middle of nowhere? And I'm excited.
Definitely. And so we were shooting back some ideas, and it's funny because you, Cassie, already kind of had the idea as well, brewing, and it's I had the idea too, and when we collided, it was like, holy shit, you guys have already thought about this as well.
Yeah.
And it's another thing to just bring this entire journey, like both of our journeys, full circle.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I think that's what this is about. You know what I mean? Is celebrating that and living that and making this the absolute best it could be.
Yeah, I mean this year, like I've really done very few of these type of things. Like every time I did one, I was like, it's got to be really fucking special. So when we launched the album, we did one with a bunch of lasers, and that was in my backyard, but you couldn't tell if you watched it. But then we did one on the top of the US Bank Tower with like the city of LA behind us, and I think that was pretty much it. Like I love doing like the online events, but they've always got to have that magic. Of like what I'd call like a real event.
For sure.
I don't want to be there like. And then this is not knocking anybody that does this, but I don't necessarily want to be in my bedroom with like, my piles of laundry behind me. There still has to be that magic there for me. Right?
Absolutely, man. Same thing. Like on Zoom calls, I don't need to see your dog barking in the back or your dirty laundry on your floor. You know what I mean? It's just like everyone's kind of zoomed out at this point. So that was a phase of Corona. That was a phase of 2020. Now it's like, let's take your best self and highest production, which has always been, a huge strong point for you, and let's make this thing full circle. It's
going to be exciting, man. Like Mother Nature is honestly one of the best production designers out there, probably the best.
Yeah.
Like when you look around at this, I mean, I'm just excited. My favourite time of day has always been the sunset. There's just something about that time of day, right? It's like the sun dips over the mountains and the light starts to change. And I've always loved driving out of Las Vegas, like around like this sort of time and getting the sunset on my drive back to LA. So anytime I get to play a show at sunset, be it like a festival or something like this, is just such a gift.
Dude, so stoked, man. I love it. Well, here we are, full circle, 9.5 years later, almost 10, going on a long spurt here, but really grateful for this entire experience and to have met you, and inspired for where we're both headed, man.
Exactly, man, and to you too. I mean, congrats on building such an amazing brand, and thank you for continuing to have me be a part of it.
Absolutely.
Over the years, I've genuinely become a bigger fan of your brand and what you do, as you were kind of mine when this all started. So yeah, man, it's been fucking awesome. Like I say, just getting to chat business and music with you over the years, and yeah, man, fucking cool.
Let's do it.
Good times. Game on.
Sick.